He ventured out in order to search for that flower, which was exceedingly pleasant and which Draupadi wanted. When he was going there, he came across on that path a monkey lying there across his path. Now, the tradition or the custom in our place is that you don't step across over anybody. That's considered the height of impudence and bad manners. So he very politely requested that monkey to kindly move away so that he could proceed on his way. That monkey said, "Look, I've become very old, as you can see, and I don't have the strength left in me to move out. Why don't you, the very strong person you are, warrior that you are, why don't you lift me up and place me somewhere aside, and then you can go your way?" Bhim was only too happy. This fellow, Bhim, thought that I'll catch him by the tail and hurl him away. Anyway, so he said, very with pleasure, I'll do that. He tried to pick up his tail, but he found that the tail was so heavy, he just could not lift it. Leave alone the monkey as a whole, he could not even handle his tail. So then he realized that it's something other than that this must be not an ordinary monkey, it must be somebody else. So then he became very polite and with great respect, he said, please pray, you can't be an ordinary monkey, you're somebody else. Play, kindly reveal yourself to me. Then Hanuman, he got up and said, look, I'm your brother. And and I've come here to tell you that arrogance it should not be there. Arrogance, you should get away. Your pride and arrogance which you have got is not good for you. And it is not a sign of a matured person or a powerful person. You must have humility. In fact, humility is a sign of not just maturity, but of strength. And because of humility, you will develop strength. If you don't have humility, you will not develop strength. So get over this thing because humility is the one which which does not stem from your ego. It stems from yourself. On the other hand, arrogance stems from your ego. So ego mat aane do. That was his advice. Then he said, all right, now that I know what you're going in search for. Not only you will be successful here, but I'll be there with you all the time. So go ahead and uh, complete your mission. Now here, humility, like I mentioned, is a very strong this characteristic of the devotee. Hanuman, as you know, is a monkey. Monkeys stand for devotion, and Hanuman was the chief of the monkeys. So he was the devotion personified, and a devotee is one who, uh, in whose heart the Lord resides permanently. In fact, of course, I don't know how many of you, perhaps most of you would be knowing that Hanumanji once, when he was asked, so he just tore his chest apart and showed his heart where was the picture of Lord Hanuman inscribed there. So that was in another instance, it is of course given in the Ramayana itself, that he said that when Sitaji gave him this pearl necklace, he just broke it, beat it, broke it, and said no, no, and kept on throwing all this priceless pearls aside. Then Sitaji asked him, what is it that you're doing? He said, I'm trying to see whether my Lord resides in them. If he resides in them, then it's of value to me. If it otherwise, it's of no use to me. So that was a devotee. And this such a devotee is, of course, not generally found, but that is the strength of devotion. That not only in his heart, but in every cell of his body, a devotee has got the Lord described. While Arjun, meanwhile, who had gone to the heavens to seek assistance to seek weapons from Lord Shiva, and thereafter Lord Indra, 1 year being over, he came back, and then he joined his brother, these four brothers. So all of them were together once again. Meanwhile, Duryodhan were wondering what he should be doing now. Now that these five Pandavas were not there, he was boss. He was complete master of everything, but he was little uneasy. So Shakuni suggested that why don't you go to the forest and see the condition of these Pandavas, how they are living there. And I'm quite sure they must be miserable since they do not have the luxury that we have. And it'd be fun to watch them. Immediately, Duryodhan agreed, and Duryodhan then went to the forest to see how these fellows are faring. Unfortunately for Duryodhan, when he selected a site where he thought he would rest there, because he has not gone alone, he's gone with a whole lot of people, all his servants, etc. So they needed a big place. Unfortunately for Duryodhan, the site which he selected had already been, I mean, they were already been occupied by one of the Gandhar who had also come there, and he was staying and he was occupying that place. Yeah. Anyway, so he was occupying that space, and then Duryodhan curtly asked him to please to vacate there. He didn't say please. He said just vacate this place. This is my place, and I propose to stay here. It is that Gandharv. He was a powerful being. He said nothing doing. You are nobody to push me out. And they eventually started having an argument and then a big fight. Unfortunately for Duryodhan, he was not only severely beaten but thrashed, but he was also made a captive. And then Chitrasen said that he was made a captive. Now, his loyal servant who had accompanied him, he didn't know what to do because Karn was not at home at hand, and none of the other warriors, great warriors, Bhishma Pitama, or Dronacharya, or others, they were there with him. So, in his anxiety to look after his boss, master, this sort of Duryodhan's servant, he approached Yudhishthir and told him that Duryodhan has been captured by the Gandhar, and we request your help to set them free. And that he has been, so the Yudhishthir asked him what happened. They said they had come to a place and where both of them where the Gandhar was already staying there, but Duryodhan wanted that very spot. So they ended up fighting, and the Gandhar beat my master very badly. So Bhim, who was listening, he said, "Oh, very good, he has been thrashed. So I'm so happy." Arjun also joined in and said, "Yes, he should be thrashed." Then, of course, Yudhishthir told both of them, "No, no, you can't have this kind of feeling. He's our brother. We have to get him released. So please go to both of you, Arjun and Bhim. The two of you go to Gandhar and plead with him or get him released if he doesn't agree by fight, by whatever." So the two of them went there as per their brother's command. And when they reached the Gandhar, they told him, we don't want any war. Or, we don't fight with you because we don't have any quarrel with you. But since Duryodhan is our brother, we'll have to get him. We request you to kindly release him. Otherwise, we'll end up fighting. Now, the Gandharv was not in any mood to fight with these Pandavas also. So he said, okay, I'll set him free. So he just set him free. But Duryodhan, Duryodhan felt very bad. He didn't like the idea of being indebted to uh, Duryodhan. So when he when he came out, when he was released and he came away from them, he berated his servant and shouted at him and abused him and told him, "Why the hell did you have to go to my uh, enemy?" Anyway, this poor fellow, the servant, kept quiet. And now this berating your subordinates, shouting at them, is a very considered very ill mannered, bad mannered. Not only then, but even today, it's a sign of you're trying to show your incompetence or your insecurity when you try to shout at somebody else, especially when he has been went back to his tent, to his camp where he was staying that where he was not yet moved into his camp, but he was still there. He wanted to commit suicide, and as he was going to commit suicide, to his good fortune, uh, this his friend Karn came over. And when Karn saw that he wants to commit suicide, he immediately stopped him. He said, "What are you doing? Are you afraid?" of then Duryodhana said, no, no, I'm not afraid of anybody. Our guru, Dronacharya, has not told us anything, has not taught us to be afraid of anyone. So I'm not afraid, but I don't want to be indebted to Bhim. Karn told him that you are not indebted to Bhim at all. Bhim is your vassal. You have to understand that. Bhim is your vassal, and he is and you are his master, really speaking. So he is only doing his job, duty as a vassal towards his master, and he has fought for you and he has set you free. So that there's nothing indebted that is his duty that he should have done. So he was that way. He was convinced, and he was very happy. And together they came back. Now, fear. There's one thing called fear. Now, the fear is really a trait of the ego. It is not a trait of the self. The self is never afraid of anything, but the ego is afraid of everything. But there's another kind of so the self is always fearless. The ego is never fearless. It is always full of fear, but it pretends to be fearless, and then it will act as if he is very strong, very powerful. It act as if it's very big, but that's only acting, and that acting is called bravado. When you show that you're very strong at that first, so Duryodhana's fearlessness when he attacked the Gandharv was of this kind. His fearlessness was in the nature of bravado. Anyway, that and this is a thing that we should not have. Now, fear is necessary for us for survival. This is one of the animal natures that has been that has been passed, that has nature has created, and it helps us surviving. Because if you there's no fear, for example, we'll kind of push our hand into the fire or jump from some cliff and commit and hurt ourselves. So fear, of course, is essential for the purpose of survival. But fear is an impediment towards spiritual growth. Because fear means that there is a lot of ego. So you have to get rid of fear. It also means that you want something. Now, fear sometimes you have, when you steal something. For example, when you steal, now you have stolen something, and you know you have done something which is wrong, which you should not have done, and that is the time when you have fear. That fear comes in because you want to do something, you desire something, but you don't want to face the consequences. If you are willing to face the consequences, to go to jail or whatever, then you'll not be afraid. You'll do whatever you want and don't care. Even if you go to jail, it's all right. But fear, otherwise, for spiritual being, for those on the spiritual path, is an impediment because it means that it is your ego which is there in considerable amount, and you have to work to eliminate that ego. After the uh, Duryodhan went back to his Hastinapur, the Pandavas who were living that time in the Dvaita forest were approached by the king of the deer, and the deer king told Yudhishthir, he said, "You have been here for some time, and every day you kill one of us, and my tribe is dwindling. Please have mercy on us and go to some other place." So then from this Dvaita forest, the Pandavas, all five brothers, they went to the Kamyak forest. Now, Kamyak forest, now this Dvaita means duality. And forest, of course, in the spiritual world, everything is a forest. Our survival here also is a forest. So, and Kamyak means, it's from Kam. Kam means sex. So from our materialism. From sex and materialism, you reside there, you're born in that forest of sex and materialism. And from there, in this place, the only thing that you know is about yourself, that you are there, nothing else is there with you other than you. You don't believe that there's something like God or whatever. However, in course of time, there is sometime you start wondering, you could not have been here by on its own. Such a magnificent universe could not have been created on its own. These kind of thoughts do come into you, and then you start feeling that no, perhaps there is something other than me, other than all this thing which we do not know, which is not visible to us. It is that time that these doubts keep on coming. And that is the time when think that maybe there is something else, maybe there's something like God. That is the duality, and that is the Dvaita. And so from Kamya, you keep on moving to Dvaita or duality. But in duality, when you start thinking that there's something like God, there's nothing tangible that you can see. There's nothing happening or nothing, no way you can perceive really God or make sure that God is there. So again, start having it out. Maybe it is my uh, imagination, maybe it is just my feeling, and perhaps there's nothing like God, etc. So you keep on, uh, oscillating between duality and the and, uh, and of course atheism and duality or theism, where you think that there is something like God. Between these are the two forests, and throughout their life, throughout our life, we keep on oscillating between atheism, that means there is no God, and at times theism, that means there is God. But neither of them we are very sure of. So we keep on oscillating there. And in the spiritual this thing, you find most of us are like this. Almost all of us are like this, sometime or the other. It's very late in life that perhaps we start becoming conscious that no, there is something like God. And very few out of these really have an experience of what God is like, or what is to be other than yourself. Yeah. Now, uh, in the Dvaita forest, you will meet. Okay, when they were in the Kamek forest from Dvaita, they moved to Kamek forest. Now, in Kamek forest, there were these five brothers and Draupadi. These five brothers would go out every morning and to get food, or primarily to get food for themselves, although they had that Akshay Patra was there, but to food and to other things they had to do, whatever. So they'd go out in the morning and come back sometime in the afternoon or evening. Draupadi that time used to be all alone in their dwelling, little hut which they had prepared. It happened that one day that Jayadrata, who was there, Jayadrata, if you recall, he was there, he was married to Duryodhana's sister. He had only one sister, Dushala. And that way he was, and the Jayadrata was a very powerful, very, very powerful being, or a king. And it was on the strength of this thing that we shall see that they wanted to have a war, but until Shakuni advised that they should go into a game of dice, and that is how that war did not take place. But at that time, and through the dice, they managed to get all uh, the kingdom of Indraprasth from Yudhishthir. Anyway, in the forest when Jayadrath was there, he saw Draupadi alone. So he just walked in, and he first started talking with her. Then he started trying to seduce her. When she realized what he's trying to do, he even berated him and told him this it does not behave you as such a great king, and especially in view of our relationship, you should not be doing all these things. But he was so infatuated by her that he just grabbed her after grabbed her and put her in his chariot, and started driving away. Draupadi started shouting there, and as to her good luck, these the brothers, all the five brothers were returning just time. That time, they Bhim and others heard her voice. They chased Jayadratha, caught hold of him, and beat him, bashed him up. And not only bashed him up, they broke his chariot, they broke all his weapons, and but when they started wanted to kill him, Yudhishthir said, "No, no, you can't kill him. He's our brother-in-law. He's married to Dushala. If you kill him, she'll become a widow. So please don't do that." But he was very angry, and he would not let Jayadratha go away. So what he did was he caught hold of the Jayadratha, tied him up, and shaved his head. Jayadratha had a, and he shaved it, and instead just left five tufts, small tufts with a little, uh, what they call tail, chutia. at each of these stops and said, okay, with this thing in this manner, you can go there. Let the let your people and everybody know what kind of wretch you are. But in this condition, of course, they could not go there. He felt very small. But since he had been prevented by, since he was in no position to uh, retaliate, he decided that he cannot go in this condition back to his kingdom. So he would much rather be in the forest and carry out penances and invoke the blessings of Lord Shiva. So he sat down and started meditating and doing austerity, etc. And very soon, Lord Shiva appeared before him and asked Jayadrata, so what would my devotee like from me? So Jayadrata said, please give me the power so that I can power over death. Lord Shiva said, no, no, I don't have power over death. I can't do that. But you asked me some other boon. So he said, all right, give me power so that I can defeat all the Pandavas. He said, yes, this I agree. On any one day, you will, of your choice, on any one day, you will be able to vanquish whoever dares stand against you. For a moment, you know, Jayadrat was very thrilled. He said, oh, what a boon the Lord Mahadev has given us. Because this way, immediately, in case these fellows, they all arrive with their allies, then too, by myself, I'll be able to vanquish all of them with his blessing. And he was very happy. For a moment, of course, he forgot that Lord Shiva was still there. And quickly getting out of his reverie, he thanked Lord Shiva and said, thank you, Mahadev, no, and I'm very grateful to you. With that, Mahadev or Lord Shiva left there, and now he has been regenerated, and he had recouped all that all that the power and glory which Bhim had taken away from him, and he rode back into his kingdom. Here he recall Jayadrata, of course, as we have mentioned earlier also, he stands for lust, and his large crop of hair, they hair also, as we had mentioned there, they stand for lust. So here, Jayadrata is lust personified, and it is not easy to defeat him or kill him or completely get rid of lust. The lust is the last thing that, or sex is the last thing that we will be able to remove. The reason being that it is through sex that the entire universe that we know or life as we know exists. If sex was not there, we would not have this kind of universe. We may have some other kind we don't know, but at least on the earth, sex is very important for whatever form of life that is there. Although we consider life in only in case of plants and animals, fishes, birds, trees, and human life. But in our case and literature, they believe that it is there in life is there in every uh, so-called non-living things also. Anyway, uh, as far as the universe is concerned, as far as this world is concerned, sex is very important and it is very difficult to eradicate it. That is what this whole uh, uh, metaphor means. That you cannot completely eradicate it, you cannot remove it. So that is how he had left these five tufts there. Also, that it has to get regenerated very quickly because this is an essential requirement as far as the uh, our nature goes. Without this, you will not be able to continue the species. So when he was let go of this way, uh, then with that he returned back to his kingdom. Okay. Now I'll stop here for a minute and for today I don't want to go any further. I have a lot of things to tell, but the two एक जो प्रमोद साहब ने पूछा था क्वेश्चन, what is the I put it up in that WhatsApp group also about that name. What was the name uh, of the land in the time of Ramayana and whether it was also Bharat. Now, apne names are very, very important. Every single name in not only Mahabharata, every single name has got some meaning. So we should not normally try to give some kind of pet names, say Bunty or or sometimes silly names also are given like Rabdi Devi, Jalebi. These are all silly names and they should not be given because names in case of human being, they denote the kind of tendency or the innate nature of that person. So if that innate nature is known to the person, then it can work upon it and very quickly do better in life. That's why names are important. Names are important also in case of places. We have got Kashi, for example. We have got Haridwar. We have got Prayag. All these names are very important. Even Hastinapur. So Bharat is very, very important. And it, as we know, it stands for dance. Bharatanta. It stands for dance, the dance of Shiva. The dance of Shiva is truth. And this is the place where we can experience truth very easily. Now, whether during the Ramayana time, whether this name was there, now, whether this name was there or not there, what is certain there, what is known from scriptures, that that land used to be called Aryavrat, which means the land of nobles, of the noble people. It was also called Ayodhya, the kingdom of Ayodhya. Ayodhya means kingdom of non-violence or peace. So ये नाम तो थे, but in addition, just like today we have got Bharat, we have got Hindustan, we have got India. So among other names, Bharat also certainly would be there, although it may not have been popular. Uh, uh, Ayodhya and Aryavrat, these two names were more popular at that time. But names are very important. That's what I thought I must share with you. Another thing which I wanted to discuss was about the distinction between uh, faith and blind belief. Although if you go through the book, at two places I've already got into some detail, but there when I was going through it, and especially when I came to the Draupadi, when she attempt was being made to strip her, then she appealed to first Bhim, all the seniors, the king, Bhishma Pitama, Dronacharya, and all the seniors, and said that and she started appealing to them in various ways. Then, when they were not able to help her, then she started appealing to her husband. Her husband also didn't help her or couldn't help her. Then, of course, when she saw that there was nothing she could do about it, then she turned her attention to God. Now, faith and belief में यही difference है. In belief is always blind. Belief means something you do not know. You assume something you do not know, and you are only assuming, and that is belief. Now, there's something like called trust. Trust and faith generally are used interchangeably, although lately trust is used in case of people and relationship, and belief and faith is used in case of spirit. So when you talk about God, then you talk about faith. But when you talk about interpersonal relationship, that let's say I've hired a security personnel, so do I have trust in him? In that sense, the trust is used. But here, of course, the faith is used in case of God only. But what is the difference between uh, blind belief and faith? Belief, like I said, is always blind because if you know something, then it's not belief. And once in one of the question answered, the same thing was asked of Sadhguru. Sadhguru said, all those who have got two hands, please raise up. And all those who believe they have got two hands, please raise up your one hand. So the entire audience was there in the entire hall. They all raised one hand each. Then he asked them, do you believe you have two hands or you know you have two hands? They all said, yes, you know you have two hands. If you know your two hands, then it's not belief. Then you already know about it. So the difference between belief is that it is an assumption. You don't know what it is, but you believe it is there. Now that belief may be due to various reasons. You believe maybe some of your friend has told you, no, for example, I've got a box. In that box, I've placed some chocolate. And I show you only an empty box and ask you what is inside. You have not seen yourself. You say, I would not know. But suppose your friend tells you that I've placed some chocolate inside. Then you say, I do not know but I believe there are chocolates inside. So that is kind of a statement that is what his belief is, that you don't know, you assume. Now, there may be some reason for your assumption, but nevertheless, it is unknown to you. So belief is always of the unknown, and belief to that in that sense it is always blind. Now, this can be blind belief can be very, very damaging, especially when it comes to God, because you don't know whether God is there or not there. If somebody has told you God is there, you just believe him, and you can commit a lot of atrocities merely because out of a belief. To believe that way, but it's a very strong motivator. It tells you that okay, you have got protection from somebody, something. It's a belief, and that belief sometimes can get you to do superhuman tasks also. But otherwise, belief can also be completely, throw you off in the sense that you think you'll be very powerful, just as happened in case of Draupadi. She thought that Bhishma Pitama, the king, then Guru Dronacharya, they were Guru Kripacharya. These are all very powerful persons, and they'll be able to save her. But she found that her belief was not true. That this was merely belief, and it was a false belief. Then she also thought that her husband will be able to save her, but her husband also could not save her. So in that sense, the belief was also in her husband was misplaced. So that is when uh, that is the time when you turn to God. Now, God, you do not really know personally whether He exists or not exists, but you have reached a state where there's nothing else other than God on whom you can depend upon. So, in that sense, God is known to you because that is now your last resort, and although you might say, isn't it belief? It is not belief because now you turn to Him knowingly. In belief, you turn to Him unknowingly. Whereas in faith, you turn to God knowingly that, okay, nothing has worked now. Please, I've surrendered everything to you. Please look after me. It is like going to the hospital, going to the airline, going to anywhere, bank. You put all your money in bank. You may have done lots of research to find out whether the bank is stable, whether the bank has got enough deposit. So you want to put a large amount of money or even a small amount, but you want that money to be safe. And when you demand it after some months or several years, whenever, you should be able to get your money back. So although it may have started from blind faith, but it is, and you may have investigated, still you do not really know. But when in spite of that, when you place your money in the bank, or when you go to a hospital or doctor to get medicine, you hope that the doctor or the medicine will not give that he will not give you a poison, or the hospital will not do anything foolish. But nevertheless, it is faith that you with which you go there. The faith comes in when after all your blind belief is exhausted. So that is the main difference between belief and faith, and that I had not brought out in this book in the portion where I should have brought out in case of Draupadi, when this was attempt was being made to disrobe her or to strip her. So that is the important point there between belief and faith. Mein kya hai? One is a blind always, the other is always with knowledge. And once with complete knowledge, you surrender yourself to God. That time, whatever is the best for you will happen. Nothing untoward can happen to you because you're connected to God and you have, in fact, taken on the identity of God. So, faith may, you no longer have your identity, you have surrendered yourself and you become that God. Just like as I mentioned in the book, that when you go to the doctor, you de facto or the hospital, you de facto become God, you become the doctor or you become that hospital, and then you administer that medicine for yourself. Naturally, you're never going to do anything wrong. Similarly, when you go to the bank, you have de facto become the bank. When you become the bank, all your accounts and everything will be safe there. Or when you're in an airline, you know that the airline is no accident has taken place. They've got a good audit system. All the repairs, etc., are very sound. The fuel, etc., is provided on time, so there's no question of any failure on any account. Yet it is faith that places you there. So that is a very important distinction between faith and uh, belief. Okay, this is what I propose to cover today. So we'll stop here.